Oh my god, that last song was the weirdest song ever. Like the creepiest thing. It was funny. That sounded funny. Anyway, what's up, guys? What's up, Deluxe? What's up, Mac? What's up, Doctor? What's up, Diego? Even though you're not here. Host 00312, thanks for the follow again. I remember seeing you follow me before. I don't know how scary this game is, to be honest. It could, like, I don't know, you know? It could be very scary, it could be not scary at all. I have no idea. But I guess you guys will see in a moment. Anyway. You gonna scream with me? Alright. Is there music in the game? Like, should I put music on? No, right? I haven't touched it at all. I honestly don't know anything about this game. Aside from that it's, like, a scary game. There's no music? Should I put music, or it's better like that there's no music? I've only heard people play this game. I don't even know if I'm scared of scary stuff anymore. I think what annoys me the most is just jump scares. Don't put music? Okay. You know FNAF lore by heart? Alright. I'm assuming holding shift is gonna scare me right now. You have sticky keys turned off. If it scares me. That's it, right? Okay. I'm just press enter. Oh, it's gonna be scary without music. The heck? Why is there a continue? I have nothing to continue. 5 days until the party. The hell is this? Was this made in the 80s? What is this?
What did he do this time? He locked you in your room again. Don't be scared.
What the hell? This is the game? This doesn't look scary at all. I thought this game like looks scary. These are my friends. This looks so dumb. How do I talk? Bro, stop crying. Stop being a bitch. You'll see it's not scary at all. Alright, stop laughing, bro. Oh, I'm trapped in the room. Bro, this doll keeps looking at me. Bro, where am I gonna hide? Wait, do I don't think knocking is... Bro! Jesus, that came out of nowhere. What am I supposed to do? The game doesn't tell me. It just said WSAD. I don't want to keep knocking. That didn't scare me. That just came out of nowhere, okay? Oh, he's on the floor crying. Bro, stop. What? Did I fail on the first day? Oh, wait, this is not how my room looked. Downward to turn and... Oh, no. Oh, I don't like that. Why do I have to turn... Oh, why you look at the floor when you're running, you dumbass? How do you... Use flashlight, use control? This... I don't like this game. Yeah. Fucking hell. Why am I using the flashlight? Oh. Wait, how do I look behind me again? Bro. Ah! It's 1 a.m. Go inside, bro. The hell? Why don't you hide in there, you idiot? Five Nights at Ping Pongs. It's not as scary as this. Bro. What am I supposed to... Oh my god, stop running. He runs... When he runs away, it's so stupid. Am I? Why can't I move my flashlight? How come 1 hour? How come 1 hour takes so long? I'm gonna close this door, bro.
Nerd plays FNAF.
Not a nerd, bro. I'm an idiot. I'm a streamer. Oh. Jeez. Oh shit, I hear something. Close it! I pressed the wrong button. So September I'm gonna pass the theme. It will be horror. Okay. But this is not even scary yet. It's just dumb, bro. There's no one here. I thought I just heard something in my room. Oh, yo! What are you doing? Oh my god! It's too quiet. I want to keep talking so I could just not, so I don't have to hear anything. I should make those channel points. What is that? Why do I hear screaming? Oh my god! I should make it that it has to cost bits to use those just for this stream. I might do that for next stream. What's the point of looking in here? What's gonna pop out in here, bro? That doesn't even make sense. Don't, I'm broke? Good. Ah! What the hell? Uga. Hey, Shiro, long time no see. How are ya? I will. F you all. Fuck you all, alright? Jesus. That didn't scare me. Goodbye. Shiro, how are you? Bro, what does that even do to me? They just pop out and that's it? I'm not gonna hear the breathing in the game. You gotta flash your light at them to make them go? You pussy! Okay, bro, alright. Just because I'm scared of freaking scary things, I'm a pussy. Where's the, what logic? Where's the logic there? Am I supposed to just keep looking around for stuff? I don't get it. Okay, get away. It has been a while. Ah! What the f- Oh my god! This game is so stupid. I hate this game. Jumps. Yeah, well, it wasn't 3, 2, 1. But what's up, Chris? Oh my god. This is why I don't want to play stupid scary games, bro. Jesus Christ. I don't go to scary movies, bro. You know the last time I was at a scary movie, I had my cap over my head, covering my eyes. I've been good though, Shiro. I haven't been streaming as much, but I've been trying to be on the YouTube grind more often. Grinding Splitgate. Oh, nice. What does continue even mean? How do I continue from death? Let's go. What's up, Craze? How are ya? Shiro, you're not doing the Rocket League stuff anymore? What is your YouTube? I'll check it out. Aw, that's so sweet. Come on, mods. Do your job. Come on, Nathan. Do your job. Making me play this stupid game. Show the YouTube. Is it random or is it the hell? Is it random or is it the same thing every time? So at like 4 a.m. is that thing gonna come out? With the boys for fun, but still somewhat improving. It's... You have to type out YouTube, Nathan. Alright. Good night, Deluxe. Nah, you gotta type out YouTube. What does that sound? Thank you, Nathan. That doesn't scare me anymore. You guys are helping me. Keep doing that. Bruh. That helps me because that makes me get used to sound. You know what I mean? So, thank you guys. I'm gonna unfollow and never watch you. Okay. Do what you want, bro. My scream probably will wake you up. This game is so stupid. I can't even point my like flashlight. It just points in one direction. Like whoever this boy's like an idiot, I swear. You can't find the page, but I know the YouTube channel now because of link. Oh. Yeah, the link should be accurate. This game is stupid. This game's actually stupid. Why do people spend their time trying to scare themselves? It's such stupidity. Oh my god. Does nothing come until 4 a.m.? Oh my god! This game is stupid! I'm trying to like... Well, I guess the audio would pierce my ears anyway. Gets the cholesterol move. You've got a YouTube sub? Aww. Arigatou gozaimasu, Shiro. I appreciate it. I'm on the... I've been on YouTube more lately. I'm so anxious. Jesus. Editing and stuff. My next video I think will actually be good. I think most of my videos are not good, but in a match I'll be back. No worries. Yo, this door... Stop! Why you open the door so slowly? That's stupid. You should... Well, peeking is probably scarier, so I don't know, actually. I heard something. This should be a video. No, because fuck horror games. Oh, what the hell is that clock? That cock. Oh, it's 3 a.m. Yeah. Why would I get scared at sound effects? It's coming at 4 a.m., bro. Do I just have to close the door when it turns to 4 a.m.? Or, like, flash my light and hopes there's something there? I heard footsteps! Shut up! Oh, I scared it away! It was coming at 4 a.m. Oh my god, okay. Okay, it's gonna come from the left side now. It's gonna come from the left. Don't... Oh, it was coming! It was actually coming! First of all, I don't know how the hell you're gonna get him to back in there. Get out of there, bitch. Oh. You're gonna be here. You gotta... There's nothing there. Bro, this game is stupid. Turn around. And the music is changing. Stop! Okay, we're good. We're good. Oh, Nathan, thanks for contributing to the thing. Oh, the hell? This is too easy, bro. This game is stupid! They're gonna come. It's 5 a.m. Get out, get out, get out, get out. Get out! No, it's gonna come. It's gonna pop up in my face. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Oh. How much time, bro? How much time does it take to... It's 5 nights, right? This is the first night? Bro, just sleep in your bed like a normal child. If you get killed, you get killed, bro. Why would you... This game is so dumb.
Bro, you think this is scary? The 6th night is much scarier, but it's the...
Listen, bro, okay? It's not about... It's not scary. It's like the slaps, bro. It comes out of nowhere, bro. Huh? Did I survive? Did I get past the first day? Is that what that means? Let's go, baby! I'm a beast! Wasn't that beast, guys? Look at this asshole. He's sleeping in my bed. He won't stop until we find him? What? Am I gonna have to get out of my room now? Ah! Wait, what? You said over there. There's 2 ways, bro. The hell? What is this? Shut up! This stupid doll is everywhere. Ah! Do sound effects when he doesn't expect it. Yeah, I figured the second night is harder, bro. Hold control to use flashlight. Use flashlight to stop on the X to skip 2 hours? What? What does that mean? What the f... What? Can I just hold it? I have no other buttons. I can't move. I can't scroll down. Oh, I'm supposed to wait for him to go on the X and then I use it, right? How am I supposed to know, bro? Oh my god. Well, if I just keep it the whole time, I should be fine, right? So this game is so easy. Oh, there's battery? How do I know where my... Oh, it's going down. Ah! Ah! Why is he getting up? How many seconds does it take him to run over? How long does my battery last? Oh my god. 24 seconds. 22. 20. Come on. 14. 12. 10. Do I even have time? Or is it gonna like trick me at 6 seconds or some shit? What the hell is this bullshit, bro? Oh, I'm supposed to use it when he gets to the X? Oh, I get it. It's not about battery. What the hell? I have to start over? Oh! I pressed escape thinking that it's gonna put me back to the menu and I could continue from the second level. And it just went out of the app. No. Buttering these nuts. Alright, let me see. FNAF. How do I get access to... Oh, here it is. Battering these nuts. Very funny. Oh, it does let me continue from level 2, it looks like. I'd rather continue from level 2 since I passed level 1 already. Oh my god, this game is actually annoying. It's only been 20 minutes, bro. Oh, okay. Okay, night 2. This was the stupid ass doll, right? What? Why is night 2 back here? Wait, is nothing gonna happen till like 2 a.m. or whatever, 3 a.m.? Is there any point to using my flashlight? Is it the same thing every time that you just learn from? Maybe watch and you'll find out, Nathan. Because it seems like it just repeats itself so far. I think because I failed night 2, even though this is night 2... I don't get why this is the same thing as before. This kid is insane, by the way. He spends 6 hours pushing away these dolls that are trying to kill him. Ah! Fuck! I'm not playing this game next month, bro. I don't care, Deluxe, okay? That I woke you. It's your fault for... I mean, you know I would scream. Oh my god. Oh. Not playing... I'm not playing a scary game with God Monkey anymore, bro. I'm sorry. It's too much for my heart, bro. Bro, it's getting dark outside, but I'm not gonna be scared. Yeah, exactly. Blame Nathan. Exactly. Oh, we couldn't do this in October, bro. So apparently in the middle of the night, the fucking stupid doll comes over here. Stupid ass doll. No, Deluxe. That's not how it works, unfortunately, for you. Close it. Ah! What the hell, bro? I closed the door! Thank you, Josh. That timing, though. Oh, this game is stupid! Arigatou gozaimasu, bro. It's been too long. Yeah, it's because it's the weekend and I'm streaming 2.5 hours earlier than usual for God Monkey's stream. Oh, this is so out of tune. No, it's not. It's okay. Thank you for subscribing, Josh. Thank you, bro. I'm sorry you're desperate, Deluxe. From the beginning when he stopped God stream because it's near Halloween time? Lol. Josh is dark Italian, bro. He's an OG. Oh my god. I don't want to play this game anymore. Yeah, I'd rather play Terraria right now. Oh, you know? Okay. Josh. Who spells Josh like that? True. This game is retarded. I'm not playing this game ever again. This is a stupid game, okay? I'm not playing this game unless we have like 100 viewers or something, okay? God Monkey is not, it's not worth playing this game for. I closed the stupid door though! I closed the door and this asshole still came, bro. Well, I closed it and opened it like an idiot. I'm not actually gonna piss my pants, but I don't think I could do more than an hour of this game. I'm sorry. Oh, fucking asshole. Bitch. Ah! 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 That's the only way I could play this without fucking getting scared out of my asshole. Ah! Bitch. Oh my. There's nothing in here. What's the point of checking that shit? Okay. No, it's not scary, bro. It's not scary. Welcome back, Diego. And Shiro. I'm excited for Call of Duty Vanguard. I haven't looked at it yet. I have to look into it. That's awesome, though. I do want to play it again with you, though. When does it come out? Like November-ish? Bro, my heart hurts. Nathan, I might go to Genshin after this. I know you're okay with Genshin. Or if you could suggest another game, bro. I can't do this for 2 hours, bro. It's been literally like less than half an hour, and I'm like dying here. I fucking hate this game. He's like, ah, then ah. Yeah, that's not... November 5th? Okay, yeah. That makes sense. I'll probably get... I'll like 99% get it. 99% probable that I'll get it. Jesus, my heart, bro. My heart can't handle this, bro. Oh my god. How does Genshin sound, Nathan? Well, he's going to his second account. Do you guys enjoy watching this, by the way? Me screaming? Because I don't enjoy screaming. Or, I mean, I don't mind screaming, but... My heart hurts. Jumping. This is funny. Well, yeah, from your guys' point of view, it's funny, sure. Well, I guess that makes sense. Why does he take such a fucking long time to turn around, you idiot? Ah! I hate this game. This game is stupid. I don't even want to wear this, bro. I don't even want to look, bro. I don't want to look, bro. Okay, those aren't scary anymore, bro. No. Okay. 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 Fucking asshole, bro. Nihongo? Nihongo визрашный accent, что это? Nihongo. Nihongo は難しいですよね。でも、this is 難しい。Bro, this game is stupid! Go ahead. 日本語で話した。Fuck you, Grace. 日本語で話したいですよね。Oh, it was coming, you fucking bitch. ですよね。でも、はい、日本語で話します。 I have to take breaks. 日本語ですよね。Oh. プロは、ありがとう、ありがとう。もう、言ったから大丈夫ですよね。Okay, this game is... Oh, 大丈夫、大丈夫。大丈夫。Oh, I have to do Russian accent now, okay? I do Russian accent for 5 minutes straight. It's hard with the Japanese, but... Oh, this game, very scary game. Complete. Oh, boo. Boo? Why you boo? Why you not like this content? This is the good content, bro. Fuck this game, bro. This game, fuck. Okay, I know curse, and I don't like to curse, but this game not a very fun game, okay? It's a very scary, annoying game. The worst thing about the scary is the jump cut. When they jump in your face, you say, why you jump in my face? Oh, it's okay, it's no problem. Oh, it's no problem, but I hear a door. Oh, it's okay, we good here. We good. Oh, okay, we good. This no problem. Ah, okay, we good. It's easy game. Ah, it's okay. Okay. Oh, he coming, bitch. I saw your eyes. Oh, he tried to trick me. He gonna kill me. No. Oh, he not there. It's okay. It's 3 a.m. It's very dark. You have to be good. I have to close door! I know close door, okay? I know care, okay? I use flashlight, okay? I don't want to listen for breathing. It's too scary. This game's scary. You understand? That's no scary anymore. Ah! That is scary, but it's okay. We good. Ah! Oh, he was coming. You see, this is 10,000 IQ. Oh, fuck you. Okay, we're good. Ah! Okay, we good. We have flashlight. Flashlight lasts forever. It's not scary, okay? I scream to show my power over them, okay? I no scream because I scared. Ah! Okay, we good. It's 2 more hours of this shit. This game is shit. Get the fuck out of here, bitch. Oh my god. Sorry, this no Russian accent. We good now. Okay, we good. It's okay. Now I look behind for stupid ones. Bye. Okay, we good. Okay, we good. This no scary games. This fun games. Oh, go to door, you idiots! Ah! How you still scare me when I don't look? Ah! This is not fun game, okay? This is scary game. This game I no like. If you have horror game, no, I no play horror game God Monkey anymore, okay? I sorry. We have to do horror game is special, okay? More special than the God Monkey, because this game is no fun for me. It's scary. It's scaring me. Do you understand? I know do this game for 2 hours, too long, Nathan. Tell me different game I play, okay? I play this game a little longer, not 2 hours. My brain, no like this. Any other game not scary is okay, you know? Scary game is too much. This is not good Russian accent, but I try, you know? It's because I have the personality, da? I have personality where I like to know, you know? In this game I don't know. The guy come out of nowhere, he go boo. Is scary? It's not scary for you, you know? So because it's scary game, is to me it's scary. When something is it's come out of nowhere, da? I know stalling, I'm talking, I like to talk, talking is important, but I don't stall here. At the 1 hour mark, I change games though. We are at 40 minutes, we have 20 more minutes, okay? this observation is this very nice, da? I made myself. I made this myself. It's very nice. I work very. I work kinda hard for this, you know. And I got the green screen and everything, you know. And my hair get more yellow. I don't care if you like or not. I sorry, but this is okay. 5 minutes passed, so I had to do it for 5 minutes, bro. You're such a nab. Yes, I haven't played this game before. Obviously, I'm a noob at it. Oh my god. Is observation duty scary? Let's go for 1 or 2 more rounds, yeah? Bruh. Where's Linz? I don't know. I haven't seen her in a while either. But Thanks. I started streaming Tuesdays and Thursdays only, and the occasional weekend, to work more on YouTube vids. For now. Of course, this month, most likely, we're gonna do a long, like 24-hour or longer stream, but yeah. How's golf, by the way? Oh my god. You have 1 point? Jesus. After this, you'd have to see for yourself. I could just look it up. I could play Genshin if you want. Bro, they changed the color of the guy too. He changed from frickin' red to blue, bro. Fucking hell, bro. This game is too scary, bro. Ah, no, the guy's gonna come here now. I already know. Ah, no, 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 no. Okay. Oh my god. I fucking hate this game, bro. This is the worst game I've ever played, bro. Oh my god. Fucking hate this shit. No, 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 no. Ah! How is it so loud, bro? I was making noise on purpose and I still heard it. I'm doing 1 more round and then we're switching to a different game. I'm sorry, Nathan. I fucking can't. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. I need much more incentive to play a scary game. Like, I need, like... I don't know what I need, but I need much more incentive, bro. This shit is too scary for me, bro. It's not... It's fucking... I hate jump scares. I hate them. Like, Jesus Christ. Bro. This smells good, though. Alright, this is my last time I'm playing it, and then we're gonna go to Genshin. What? I pressed the button. Unless you want me to play a different game that's not scaring Nathan right now. For the next, like, hour and a half, hour, 20 minutes. I just heard a bird. When does the... I never hear breathing, bro. I never fucking hear the breathing, bro. And there's nothing that ever comes out of the closet. That's probably the next round, right? Oh my god, bro. I can't. Why are none of you talking? Ah! Okay. I don't know what observation duty is. If it's a scary game, I'm not playing it. Ah, thank you, Diego. Thank you. Thanks for the applause. It didn't scare me. Because it's an applause! It's not a fucking... No, it did scare me before, though. Okay. Bro, this guy comes out of nowhere. It didn't scare me. The applause didn't scare me. I swear to God, bro. I swear, the applause didn't scare me. Okay. I can't, bro. I can't, bro. I hate this fucking shit, bro. Okay, that one was a little. That one was a little. That one came out of nowhere, bro. That kind of scared me. I'm not gonna lie. That kind of scared me. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. So what, Diego? What do you want from me? You listen to Donda? What's Donda? Donda está la biblioteca, bro? Come on. Nothing. Okay. Okay, bro. I'm gonna get fucking killed, bro. Goodbye. I'm not gonna get scared from that shit anymore, guys. Oh, bitch! You saw that bitch wanted to come attack me. Fucking bitch. Now it's Oh, he's not there. Okay. I will get scared. Okay, he's not there. That's fine. Those little guys are not scary, but I don't really listen to rap, but I might have listened to 1 or 2 songs because my brother likes rap. Okay. Oh, bitch! Fucking asshole. Yeah, get out of here. Nothing in the closet, right? Okay. He takes so long to fucking run to the closet. I looked behind me. Oh, you mean in real life? Oh, there's nothing there. Those are not scary. I don't know why those are not scary. Oh, yeah, we're good. Only 3 more fucking hours, bro. Monkey do very okay. Bro, I fucking hate this game, bro. The craziest part is like 5 minutes feels like 10 hours. This fucking stupid ass game. I also never curse this much on stream. In general too. Bitch! He's gonna come faster now. I just scared him away. Okay. No. Oh, okay. Imagine he comes out of the closet. Oh, okay. Nothing there. 7 and 17 first. You playing COD? Damn, I haven't played COD in a minute, bro. Oh, okay. 2 more hours. 2 more fucking hours, bro. Bitch, get the fuck out of here. No, get out. You asshole! Okay. Fuck that game. Yeah, I'll stretch. I'm not playing that game anymore. I'm sorry. I'm a pussy. I'll take it. Alright. I can't play this game anymore. I need a bigger incentive to play this game, okay? God Monkey, good job on getting those points and getting God Monkey. You played a lot of games. You made me play a lot of games, a lot of different things, but scary games, bro, I can't. Maybe on Halloween, okay? Halloween, it makes sense, okay? Maybe on Halloween. I can't fucking do this shit, okay? This game's too scary. Alright, thank you, Chris. Thank you. I tried my best. And that's what we applause for. For almost an hour of pain. Okay? Jesus Christ. Happy you laughed out loud, though. What game would you like me to play instead right now, Nathan? Listen. I could do Genshin, okay? I know he likes Genshin, okay? I could do Jumpkin. I could do Call of Dudes. I could do Rocket League, alright? We could do the other game where you, the annoying game to climb. I forgot what it's called, okay? We got Fall Woman. We got Fall Guys. We got freaking, Vroom, driving, Mario Kart. We got Mario Kart. We got Zelda. So many games. Okay? Not this game. Jesus Christ, this game is terrible. This game's actually disgusting. I think I ruined my green screen by slamming the table so much. Since he's not here, I'm gonna assume He wants Genshin. So we'll go over to Genshin. Sorry, guys. That was... You would have to pay me to continue to play that game. Oh my god. I will add music though, so you guys could have song requests, so you guys could put your own music on. Alright, but Jesus Christ. My head actually, like, oh my god. Why do people play games like that? I don't get it. I'm gonna set up... Yeah, my blood pressure was rising like crazy, bro. I'm gonna set up for Genshin, because I'm pretty sure he would want me to play Genshin. And I haven't played in a while, so... Look what it requires for me to stream on Look what it requires for me to stream on console. Look at this. Is that not crazy? Oh my god. Actually, technically we don't need this. I'll try to do it without this. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'll try a different methodology right here. Okay. Oh. My head is actually spinning right now. Jesus. I couldn't, Diego. I couldn't. I've now watched season 1 of The Promised Land. Hey, oh yeah! Did you ever get to Baruto? But before you answer, let me just well, I mean you could answer, but I'm just gonna set the rest of this up. Oh my god, bro. Oh, wrong button. My head is exploding. Why is that so scary? This stupid game. Oh, hopefully it doesn't have to update Genshin. Let's go to PlayStation 5, HDMI. This is HDMI audio, I think I have. Yeah, that should push through now. Okay, cool. I'm such an idiot. I forgot the buttons. Technically, we don't even need HDMI to play this. Ah! How long do you... Oh, you guys don't even see this. Funny thing is, I don't even need to... Oh my god, I think I did ruin my green screen or something. The green screen effect. Because I was just going crazy. Let me... Oh god, 20 gigs? We could do something else while this is updating. But since we have background music, I'll lower the music of the game. Oh, that was torture. Season 1 of... Oh, I've watched Season 1 of Promised Neverland 2. I never got to Season 2. Promised Neverland is a masterpiece? Yeah, it was really good. The end was really good too, I thought. Food Wars? Food Wars is a funny show. I've never actually watched it. But it always looked like a show I didn't want to watch in front of family, you know? Yo, Saiki K is awesome. I think that's one of the best comedy animes. Saiki K is great. I'm gonna pause all the other downloads. This is what happens when you don't go on your console for like a month. Look at this. Even less than a month, probably. Jesus. 80 episodes left of Naruto? Damn, you gotta finish Naruto, bro. Naruto is great. Well, the war arc is kind of but towards the end of it, it's pretty amazing. We could play Rocket League while it updates Genshin. I think that could be fun. Wait, you could join a group? So much probably changed in this game. I wonder what changed. Of course, Tyler's playing it. We could also go to Jump King while this updates, which is probably a better idea. Or the other annoying game. We'll go to Jump King for now. Or what's the other annoying game, actually? Since Nathan isn't here to say anything. Akeru Sora. Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. Yeah, we'll play that game for now. Yo, Naruto is amazing, Diego. Okay, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. What the heck is that sound? Oh my god. Is the audio from this game that loud? Oh my god, it is. Jesus. Okay, I lowered that. Let me show you guys what I'm looking at. Oh, that song sounds alright. Ba 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 boopy. Ji ba boop ba ba doopa. Si ba boop ba da ba boo. PC games. Let's go here. Why isn't it showing? I'll fix it real quick. Let me just see how long Genshin's gonna take. That's like 40 minutes. That's weird. It's not showing the game for some reason. One moment, please. I think I know the problem. I'll be right back. I'll unplug things and plug them again. Okay. Gomen nasai, everyone. Gomen nasai. Let's just put this here, and this here. Is this one of the new songs? Sounds nice. Okay, let's do that. Browser. It's not what I want to look at. Genshin has 44 minutes left. It's actually annoying. I don't know why it's not capturing it. Maybe I have to start the game. Oh, I had to start the game. Okay. Oh. It's my favorite song on the album. Sounds nice. I haven't played this game in a minute. Okay. Sorry for all those that were enjoying the Friday Night or Funkin', bro. I couldn't. It's like games like this are annoying, right? Games like this are really annoying and frustrating, but they're not scary, you know? I think that's one thing that would be very hard for me to do. To play scary games, bro. I just, it hurts my heart, bro. I can't enjoy streaming like that, you know? Even just like 10 minutes of it was like, oh, it was so bad. I'm a pussy. Ah! Shut up. Too loud. Okay. Play a scary game with friends? Oh my god. Yeah, I could do that if there's no headset. Bro, I was actually just talking about this with my cousin. My cousin said he really liked the latest video on YouTube. And like he actually laughed, like giggled in his room, and he's like, you know, to make someone giggle in their room is quite a task. And I'm like, okay. But like I know what he's saying. Like I feel like if I were to stream with my friends, it would be very entertaining. Because my friends, the way I interact with my friends, it's just funny. And also I need other people around me to like Like I feel like I'm best in that environment to interact with people around me. I think that's like fun, entertaining, funny. Like this is also fine, I guess, but well, I mean, I think it's fine, right? But what's it called? Yeah. But everyone's always like everyone's busy, you know? I can't get everyone here all the time. That would be sick though. Also, I don't know if I would be PC enough for Twitch. Well, not that I'm that crazy, but ah! Hey, let's go. Alright, this is easy. You should lower music volume. Okay. How is it now? Thank you for letting me know. Every day I'm crying of laughter. My family says to me like, "Are you watching? What are you watching? That's so funny." Wait, from me? You're always laughing from me? Thanks. Let's see if any of the 2-month-old muscle memory stuck. Oh, well, this isn't Jump King, so I'm just figuring that Nathan would probably prefer this over a Jump King until Genshin finishes updating. So, because Jump King, I've beaten the main thing, you know. Sorry, Doctor. From my streams. Really? Ah, that makes me that makes me happy. Ugh. That's the thing too. It's hard to know, you know, how I'm doing, and how if you guys are enjoying that much. But I guess if you guys are here, you're enjoying to a certain extent, right? But yeah, it's what I'm trying to say is like I feel like it's like different dynamics when other people are here too, and it makes it like more interesting sometimes. Sometimes. I guess not always, yeah. But anyway. You played this 2 months ago pretty much. Oh, you're saying for this game? Yeah. Yeah, it has been a while since I played this. We're gonna freaking get this, bro. It's good now? Thanks, Josh. Rip Doctor. How you not filling me? Filling me with your white stuff. What? Okay, how do we do this?
The new merch is out.
Oh, don't buy the merch. I bought it. Wait, let me show you guys actually. Let me show you guys. Funny thing is, this is a tier 2 sub emote that no one has. I just wanted to test it out, right? Right? So I put this. Okay. But I wasn't happy with the quality. So I messaged them and I was like, "Bro, your quality sucks. You said it was going to be good quality." And they were like, "Bro, I'm sorry." And they're going to send me an extra shirt. So I want to see if it's good first, you know? Let me change the category for the game. What is this game again? I forgot what this game is called. Anyone remember? Oh, Getting Over It. That's what it's called. Alright, we're making progress. Oh my god, wow. Gripping these nuts. That doesn't even make sense. It's GD. Wait. Why doesn't that make... Oh, I thought you were doing an acronym, like GRR. If Doctor stands for Doctor, then your name is Gur. Doctor gripping these nuts. Wow. Yeah, don't mess with me, bro. I'm the biggest rapper you've ever met. Heavenly messages. Test me. I keep it clean. It could get messy when I do PP. That's my... God is your bestie. That just sounds funny. Ah, come on. I'm gonna buy pink Ong merch, so I don't have to tell people that I'm cringe. They can just tell. Nah, don't buy the merch. Not yet. Alright? I want good merch. Alright? If anyone actually buys. If you have any ideas or designs, feel free to contact me. I'd be willing to actually pay for like good enough designs, for merch, for emotes. I'm actually I want an animated emote for a tier 3 sub right now because we have so many tier 3 subs. No, but like yeah, I want that, but it's stop. But it's very it's hard to get someone to do it. People charge a lot of money. Will it even have shipping to Mexico? Oh, that's yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it will actually. That's a good point. Bro, just go to Cali, bro. What are you doing? Just come to New York, bro. Will it have shipping to Mexico? Let me check right now. Stream Elements shipping to Mexico. Do you ship international? I should have asked. I didn't even think of that for some reason. International. Here it is. Here it is. Orders from the EU are manufactured in their EU. Oh, cool. So for EU, it's not bad. Flat shipping rates for domestic/international. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it said for XXL t-shirts, it's only produced in the US. I thought I read that for a second. That would have been funny. But that's not what it said. Yeah, I'm still trash at this game, Doctor. They would steal the shirt of so much awesomeness. I could probably still order it to someone in my family, but they would steal the shirt of so much awesomeness. I know, right? Yeah, I was thinking to make the emotes shirts for now, you know? I don't know. Especially like stepmom or something. Don't jump. Don't. Idiot. Oh my god, just jump. Oh, what are you? I can't hear their music. Alright, this is fine. I did it on purpose so you guys... So whoever hasn't seen this game before could see the beginning. Bruh. Easy. Bruh, easy. Look at this. Look at this. Oh my god, is this guy a pro? Let's take that down. Everyone hates that you read the shirt from down to up. Everyone hates that you read the shirt from down to up. What? What, that I read the chat from out? Oh yeah, I do read the chat from down to up sometimes. A lot. It's because it's the first thing I see. The chat, yeah. It's because it's the first thing I see, and then I read backwards sometimes. My bad. I'm stupid. Every time. Not every time. A lot of times. If there's a lot of chat, or like I can look at chat for only a second because of the game I'm playing, like Friday Night at Freddy's or something, then I'll read whatever I see first, and then I'll like read backwards, I guess, yeah. Because it's harder for me to like figure out where the chat is. Right now I could read everything though, but yeah. Hey, let's go. We're back, baby. Should I do a 24-hour stream of this? I feel like it would probably take me 24 hours because I'm an idiot. Nope. Okay, we're good. We're Gucci. Gucci, gaga. Why can't you reach it? Oh, yeah. Twist that, baby. Ooh, speaking of Naruto. I'm so happy that Josh is getting into anime so much. It's like reminding me of me when I was younger. I did the same thing as before. Next thing you know it, he's gonna go to Japan and teach English. Friday Night at Freddy's. Bro, I can't. I'm sorry. Friday Night at Freddy's, I'm a pussy. I'm not gonna lie, okay? I'm a wussy, I'm a whatever. I the 40 minutes that I did, I it that was enough fear for the year. Fear for the year. I'm sorry. I was actually like I just bruh, I'm sorry. Alright, I'm sorry. Horror games, it's the only thing that I won't accept from now on for God Monkey streams, okay? I learned. It's a learning process, alright? I'm not perfect, alright? Listen, no one is perfect. Even the president of the United States is not perfect, okay? Afghanistan with Biden, Trump with a lot of stuff, like, okay? So, alright? If the president is not perfect, then why do I have to be perfect, okay? Like, I mean, I'm gonna try to be perfect. But, like, you know? So, I should have said that before. Even if it's for the content, that's the one thing I don't know. I don't know if I could do. I was making fun of you saying the wrong name. I don't care about the game. Oh, okay. Wait, it's not Friday Night at Freddy's? Frankie? What is it? FNAF, no? You hate this song? This is from Naruto. It's so good. It's like, oh. But I feel a bit bad for Nathan, that's why. But then again, Nathan, the past few God streams, he wasn't even there for the God Monkey stream, so I don't know how bad I feel. Oh, okay, we're good. 5 nights? Oh, it's not Friday night? Oh, it's because of the Friday Funkin' game. The Friday Funkin'. That's what made me think of Friday night. Oh. Oh. Look at the skill. Oh. Look at the skill. Oh. Hello, je le boss. I do not speak French, but if you want to teach me, I'll learn. Oui, oui. Je la poupou. Bonjour. Hola. I think he left. That the weird kids at school didn't stop singing it. Wait, did they do this too? Did the weird kids at school do this? Wait, first of all, I'm deleting this shit, okay? We don't need to see this, okay? We don't need to see Friday night, or 5 nights, whatever, okay? We're gonna see, okay? We're gonna see Jump King, even though it's not Jump King, okay? Did they used to do this? Did they used to do this? They used to do this? Because that's sexy. Friday Funkin'. Nathan really thinks he'll still have God Monkey in November. Ooh, shots fired! Making things interesting. Wait, what? Oh. The game doesn't show up unless I'm on the screen. It's weird. I'm gonna make progress for shizzles, my nizzles. I should have checked on Genshin's progress. I think there's still time for that, though. They probably did the hand signs. Yo! Okay. This is Chidori, if anyone wants to know, okay? Boom, 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 boom. This is very cringe. There's also the long way. It's like this. But you don't need to do the long way, bro, okay? Only noobs do the wrong way, okay? If you're Kakashi Sensei, bro, you got it, bro. You don't need to do it all those things, okay? How did I fall all the way here?
Ping is so cringe. Oh my god.
Yes, okay? This is the first time you met me. I know I'm cringe. Listen, it's cool, okay? Actually, it's funny. When I was in college, someone in college actually... he doesn't know any of the signs, but he was like just doing it like this, and it looked so real. It was so funny. You know, it's based off actual real stuff, like the sign of the tiger and lion or whatever. So like that's actually cool, right? Like lions and tigers. I don't know. And they did the hand things. They probably did. Oh, I did. My bad for reading backwards. Hey. Listen, Diego, we're all weird, okay? I feel like I'm a pretty weird person. But that's what makes me different, okay? And special and amazing. Okay? That's why my mother loves me. That's why. Now, if only a girl loved me as much as my mother. Oh, that sounds really weird. My mom. Not my mom. I was actually thinking about contacting a girl from high school today. The thing is, I have to see if she has a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever. But what I actually have to see is if she's rich. Cuz if she's not rich, it's not worth it. Like if she expects me to make the money, bro, like it's 2021. Like I'm a streamer, okay? And a YouTuber. You got to give me like 5-10 years, you know? She has to believe in me. So I'll have to check in on that, but well, what's cringe was when my friends bit their hands to turn into a Titan. It's even weirder, bro. At least the hand signals, you're just like, but with the biting your hand, bro. That's how COVID spread, probably from your friends. Actually, if COVID started in Mexico, we would know because Trump would be talking about it a lot. Oh, why can't I? Ping is a gold digger. No, but I want to be a gold digger. It seems like you get the best of both worlds, you know? Maybe. Oh, come on, my butt, bro. What is that? Oh, strats. Okay, I want to get past this part already. Come on. Ooh, look at that jump. Alright, so what we're gonna do. Oh, we did it! Yo! Okay, this part is a little hard for noobs, for losers like you guys. No offense, okay? You guys aren't losers, okay? I just said that because I wanted to sound funny, okay? But it's not for plebs like you guys, okay? Okay, this is what a... Give me a second. I got this. First of all, that's not how you spell losers. I don't know if in Spanish they spell losers like that, but this is America. I don't know how sarcastically of an asshole I can be with you, Diego, and with you guys in general, but I'm just joking. Meanwhile, my record pace could have beaten this game 14 times since you start. I get it, Doctor, okay? I get it. You're good, okay? You're good at video games, okay? But you know what? 1v1 me on Call of Duty and then see what happens, okay? Because I bet that you might win. I don't know. Josh would probably... I remember I used to be better at Josh at sniping, and then he got better than me, and then we both stopped playing. Actually, a lot of people stopped playing. Oh, 1v1 you in Black Ops 3. Always talking about how good he speedruns. I know, right? Like, like we get it. Like, you're a good speedrunner, but like, not everything in life is about running with speed, okay? Alright, come on. Ow. Stop hitting yourself, you idiot. How much immunity should I give God Monkey? I just had an amazing idea. What if God Monkey immunity is based off the previous person who had God Monkey? So if Nathan has God Monkey for 6 months... Oh no, wait, that doesn't make sense. How about it's half of what the other person had? So if someone has God Monkey for 6 months, the next person could have it for 3 months until the next person, like, gets it. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm happy while you don't play COD. When I don't play... Yeah, you don't like when I play COD. But you said at one point that you were getting used to it, so... I'm going on my 3rd date with... Hey! Let's go, Josh! How is it going, man? Bro. Honestly, like... Oh my god, this song actually gets so annoying after a while. The funny thing is... There are so many people in my friend group and so many people I know that have never had a girlfriend. Maybe I just hang around losers. I don't know if that's what a loser is, but None of you guys have girlfriends. Neither do I. But but like it's interesting to see like how things are changing. Like in the past, like the more developed we get, the longer we kind of hold off things for the future. Like people get their first job later on in life now because of college and stuff. People have like get married later on. People have children later on. I think it's because we're living longer that we're able to make these decisions. But it's very interesting. I forgot where I was going with that. Good luck on that date, bro. Tell us about her. How's it going? I was so good at Black Ops 3 that I had to start playing with inverted controllers to even the playing field. Bro, I could play with inverted and then I'll possibly beat you. Black Ops 3 is such a specific one, though. I don't even remember Black Ops 3 compared to the other ones. God Monkey immunity could be related to how much watch time they have in the month or something. I don't want to make it like that, only because it takes a lot of points to get to God Monkey. Well, I guess if it takes a lot of points, you probably have a good amount of watch hour time. I guess that's a thing. Huh. Maybe. Her name is Ella? Oh, I know an Ella. Wait, is it that is she New Zealander? No, she's probably not. Is she Is she Ohioan? Is she from Ohio? I don't know why I think I'm so clever with that. I mean, Iowa? Oh yeah, the joke was Iowa. We literally have... You have the same birthday? Hell yeah. But you met her after your birthday, right? Because your birthday passed already. Yeah, she's from Ohio. Nice. Well, I guess that makes sense. Like, she goes to school with you, or? I just, like... Oh, and a senior as well. Ah. How did I skip the first sentence? She's a swimmer and a senior. I read Ella, and my brain just went towards that. She's a swimmer and a senior. Damn, she's a swimmer. I was a swimmer in high school. We have so much in common. She's a girl. I'm a human being. Her name starts with E. My name starts with E. I was a senior at one point in high school. She's a senior right now. Bro. You've been talking to her for 3 months. Oh. Is it certain that it's like girlfriend? Or is it like... Bro, how do I do this? How do I always screw this up? Or is it like... Well, I guess you guessed, right? From what I've heard, because I don't have much experience dating, but from what I've heard, after like the third date, it's usually like more serious. But I guess you've been talking to her for a while. The thing is, when you're talking to someone for a while, it could turn into something else, you know? Like... But I'm happy for you, bro. Let's go. I mean, as long as you're enjoying it, you know? Congratulations. That was also an excuse for me to use that button, so. Yeah. I just like boost, so you actually have to use more than a fraction of a brain cell to track your opponent. Oh, that was the game with the boosts. Honestly, I didn't mind Black Ops 3 much. Infinity War, I think, was too much. I don't remember. I think my least favorite Call of Duty was Ghost. Call of Duty Ghosts. All right, let's see how much Genshin updated. Oh, we got 6 minutes left on Genshin. Nah. Can I at least get past these stupid lights? All right, we got this. But it's nice to see you, Josh, honestly. It's I know everyone's busy with their lives and stuff, especially with school for a lot of people, like in September and stuff. But it's like, I don't know. It kind of feels like sad sometimes to like chill with people and then like see people like leave and stuff. But then at the same time, like I stopped playing Call of Duty as much, and I don't know. It's just things change, you know? But yeah. That's why streaming is very I don't know. I want to make it also, I want to become more professional in terms of, like, I want to make it feel like a show. I want to make the stream feel like a show. Like I want to do more graphics intensive stuff, like learn some graphic design and stuff. Like doing like this. Like that feels so cool to me, you know? And getting the green screen and something else that you guys will see if you stick around to the end of the stream. But I need to work more on that. I mean, the challenges are kind of like that. Why the bro? What happened? Alright, let's see this. By the way, you guys can song request. Alright, I'm not going to be able to pass this. I'm going to try one more time. And then we're going to go to Genshin Impukto. Ooh, one more time. All right, yeah, no, that's it. That's we'll stop there. Let's press quit. Let me just change the category. But yeah, I want to be smarter with my streams and stuff, if that makes sense. I'll be right back. I'm back. What if we don't hit 100k in 5 days? For the... yeah, I overshot with the challenge. What we can do is I could extend it, or I could cancel it and return all the points. My thinking is we've reached 25,000 points. We reached it last time much faster, but I think I'm gonna have it at 25,000 instead of 100,000. I don't know if I could change to show the video. I don't know if I could change it, or maybe I'll give back the points. I haven't decided yet, or I'll extend it. We'll see. We'll see. So many decisions, you know? So many things we could do. I thought you put a Mr. Rogers song, and then I realized it says, thanks for contributing 2,000 points, bro. That's so sweet. Yeah, let me just do this real quick. Venture. All of the kids like me. I'd be like the best rapper in the world, but I think I would be too good that they would. I don't know, you know. You were originally gonna set it to 1 million. I know, right? It's because the last one was reached fairly quickly. The last goal, and we were growing at a rate that we had more people. But what I realized is that people come and go a lot with streaming. Yeah. Sometimes I read chat twice by accident. Ground. Okay, let me message Nathan, because I don't know where he went. I know he likes Genshin Impukto. Nathan. These songs are very chill. Where to go in? 1 million would have definitely been too much, though. I have to remember how many points that is, you know? I wonder... I think I could see how much each of y'all have actually put into it. Let's see. Maybe not. Maybe when it ends? I don't know. But I kind of have a feeling of... I think Mac put in the most, possibly. Nathan put in a good amount as well. Josh just put in a good amount as well. It's too cold, bro.
Oh my god.
But yeah, we've been doing some... I have enough money for double stepsis. I will save, though. Okay. Your decision. Remember, stepsis and mother are once a day type stuff. By the way, You want God Monkey? I was watching back. My mom's voice changed throughout the months. I think something happened there. Nathan will probably buy again. True, which is why I want to have immunity. I feel like it wouldn't be fair, right? If one person always has God Monkey. I've been pretty happy lately. All's going well. It's weird. It's like my whole life is coming together in front of me. Ups and downs of life, I guess. Yep. What I would say to that is probably be prepared. Well, no, be happy in your moment. Like, I feel like whenever I'm happy, I tend to like think about the negativity that's gonna come later, unless it's like happy like every moment. Like I try not to, but I like it just comes to us naturally. I feel like, right, as human beings. I don't know, but that's great, man. Life is like that for sure. I was on a down kind of recently when before I changed to this new schedule, I would be streaming kind of often, but the rest of the day I would kind of just waste. And nowadays, I'm like concentrating more on editing for YouTube and streaming much less. But it's like, for some reason, for me and probably a lot of you guys, and I don't know about other people, but I know some people are different, but it goes up and down. It's very hard to consistently be productive and happy with your position, at least for me. I will say when I was in Japan, I was consistently stressed for making lessons for students and at the same time consistently happy. And because I was just busy with things all the time. And when I would get home, I would rest and chill and just like watch whatever. Like I would watch like anime or whatever, and like that would like sure that's not productivity, but or whatever. But that's like everything kind of fell in together. I'm gonna ride this high as long as I can. Awesome, and appreciate it, man. If God Monkey's once a month, it needs a lot of immunity. True. It's once a month for now, yeah. Unfortunately. Oh my god, I forgot what it feels to hold a frickin' PlayStation controller. It feels good. I'm not gonna lie, it feels good. Oh yeah, I've never even gone to this new area. I do want to explore it, so we're gonna... Can I even go in it? That's what she said. Mr. Ranger... I don't know this song, but it sounds nice. They should allow you to zoom out more in this game, though. It's way too crazy. I want to make immunity based off how long someone had God Monkey for. So the longer you have God Monkey, or the longer the previous person had it for, the longer your immunity is. Maybe I don't know. But I'll have to figure out an immunity thing. Zelda Breath of the Wild is better. I don't know. Honestly, this game's pretty awesome. I think there's a limit to like 7 or 8 minutes for songs, unfortunately. Map can zoom out. True, that is nice. But look, does Zelda have characters like this that can climb very well, is what I'm trying to say. They're very good at climbing things. Anyway. Yeah. Give me all your points to overthrow the tyrant, Nathan. I remember when, I think when I was in Japan, I had a high also. I wasn't high, but I had a high for majority of the time there, which is kind of insane to think about. Living alone is just beautiful, and then I was busy enough with work, and like, I hung out a lot, and I had my, like, everything was perfect. My relaxing time to watch, like, YouTube and stuff, and anime, my time at work, my time with friends, all of it was enjoyable, and I would wake up almost every day like feeling happy. Nowadays it's just it's a bit stressful to like think about the fact that like I don't know how to get up here, but that's not what's stressful. That like it's I'm streaming and making YouTube videos when I could be making like over $100,000 a year, save up, like find a girl, settle down, but also that I don't want to do that at all. But you know, it feels a bit like weird. It doesn't feel. It feels a bit stressful to. I don't know. I just overthink things too much. Pingus simp? Who am I simp for? And not Sniper Monkey simp? What's a Sniper Monkey? How do I get up here? Oh, it's just looking at me with that big butt. I mean, the big purple thing. I think anything I would be doing, I would be stressed though. That's just the type of person I am. Thankfully, it sounds like you're not like that, Josh, which is good. Um, but yeah, I stress over things that shouldn't even be stressed over. I'm better now than in the past though, for sure. Bro, can I not stand anywhere? What is this? How do I get up here? Is there a secret? What is this? Nah, it feels like Zelda now. I have to think. Me thinking? Very hard thing to do. Oh, Michelle, what's up? I think I used the wind catcher bottle on this, but I forget. The wind catcher bottle? What is that? Wait, you play this game? Like, you consistently? I didn't know that. How are ya? We're playing some party games kinda recently, and I was like, where's Michelle? What you're doing is right. You should do what you want, no matter what people say. Yeah, I'm gonna go to college and doing a simple route, but it's fine to choose your own path. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Definitely, I think you should do what you want. I never really had. Hey, I got it. Oh, the windbreaker, the wind catcher from with Venti, yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe. I did do it. I'm a sim, but you're a sim for furless, unlike me. Furls this dig in my mouth. What is furless? That's what you use when you don't have Venti? Oh, is that a new item? I've never heard of that. What do I want to say? Yeah, I think it's really funny. Like when I was, ever since I was little, I kind of just went with the flow, doing whatever. And things really changed when I went to Japan and I just saw more of the world and I was like, wow, there's so much more out there. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever be comfortable doing one thing anymore. Um, but I'm okay with that ish for now. I think it's old. It's a craftable. Oh, I didn't even know that. I try to just find a way to climb up because then I feel proud of myself too. Furls these nuts in your mouth. Yeah, like what does that mean? I knew you were gonna say that, but what does that mean? Furls these furls? Like isn't curl like to curl something? Furls? I don't know. Um, definitely Josh, but I think like most, like a lot of people of my generation and like younger generation, it's hard to do things without seeing progress right away because of like how fast things move and how everything, how social media is and everything, right? So like if I don't have 100 viewers by next month, then it's fine. But with Twitch, it's crazy because it goes up and down a lot, and I like the feeling of progress, which is why I like making like stuff like this. But which I don't think Michelle, I don't think you saw this, but making stuff like this where I could change like just the design of like I feel like it's so cool, but it feels like progress and feels like I'm making something new. I'm learning something new, and I really enjoy that also. So that's why I want to do more challenges and interesting streams as well. Um, yeah. All right, let me talk to Lin Ling. Watch the video I sent. Oh, I didn't even pay attention. What the hell? Wait, let me put browser on so everyone could see it. Oh, wrong one. Ah, not that. Right. 1 second, Kanye. Gomennasai. Super intelligent monkey princess. Uh. Wait. Anyway, let's get back to the music. Wait, why is it? Oh. I was like, why is it still showing that? I feel like I'm a sniper monkey. I'll take it. Super intelligent. Wait, you just said I'm not a sniper monkey. Me that can't read what he's typing because of quality. I typed follow me on Twitch and I put my Twitch link. I just thought that was funny. Make the bird bell. Sappa-tappa-doo. Sappa-tappa-doo. Tap-doop-dan. 11, 11, 11. This is actually kind of chill rap music. Not a big fan of rap, but it's alright. It's alright music, I suppose. Ooh, I have to. What do I have to do to the kids? Is this gonna be sus? Have you come to play with us? Why would I play with you? Ew. You're a child. I don't get it. If they get to work, blah, blah, blah. There's too many quests. Well, that's because I haven't played this game in a long time. 3 boats. I'll put it in writing. Wait, what? Mang, talk to me. It's kind of funny to me. Yesterday.
I remember one boat went out yesterday evening.
Oh, yeah. We had to find out how much boats were like on the dock or something. I remember now. Let's go back to Ling Ling. Ling Ling is Bay. Oh, I just remembered how to play this game. How do we fight? Oh, yeah. This game is fun. Funish. Boom! Oh my god! Oh my god! Why is every character so short? Or why are these guys so tall? Oh my god. I just realized like how short our characters are. Wait, you're short, right? Like me? Are you short? I can't tell. Let's go talk to Lin Ling. What's up, Lin Ling? Did you interrogate the miners? Bruh, that sounds mad sus. Oh. What? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. I didn't read it. She's like, one ship? There was only one ship? Yeah, there was only one ship. What's the next song not playing? It was deleted from YouTube. How tall are you? How tall do you think I am? How tall do you think I am? We have to do story quest, right? Whoa, whoa, hey, hey. Let's unlock this. Oh. I can't. Let's go to story quest. Ping is 4'6", 2'4", 9'20". Ping, the main characters are underaged mostly. Listen, alright? So what? Age is just... Listen, okay? The age in Japan is 50... Listen, okay? Listen. My favorite character, Beidou, is not underage, and that's all that matters. Ping is 4'6", 5'9". That's actually close. I'm not that short, bro. Okay, look. All right, look at this. All right. Yao Ming. Okay, you know Yao Ming, right, guys? You guys know Yao Ming, right? You guys know Yao Ming. Wait, let me find him. Okay, I found him. Okay. Oh, wait. I found a better picture. Wait. I gotta show you guys what I'm thinking of, okay? I found him. Yao Ming. Right. You guys, like, everyone knows Yao Ming, okay? He's a tall basketball player, for anyone who doesn't know. Okay? Okay. Now, are you telling me... Actually, we don't even need... Yeah, we'll do this. Okay? Yao Ming. You know how tall Yao Ming is? All right. Okay. This is Yao Ming. This is Yao Ming. My God. Yeah, this is Yao Ming. Okay. And this is how tall Yao Ming is, and this is how tall I am. Like, he's short. Okay. So that should help you out in trying to figure out how tall I am. Basically pretty tall. I'm pretty tall. Delete that song from the queue. That's not the song I wanted. Okay. Wait, you clipped what? What is there to clip? Oh, the underage? I'll delete it, sure. I'm 5'10.5", okay? Ping looks at 15-year-old girl's ass in this game. She's not 15. Alright. How old is Keking? Okay. Keking is 17, okay? When she came out. When she came out in the game, okay? When did Keking come out? February 7th. When was Keking first released? Saying that she's 15 years old, bro. September 2020, okay? It's September 2021, okay? She's 18. She's not 17. She's 18. Okay? Age of consent in New York. 17. 17. Oh my God, it was 14 in 2017. Oh, with parental or judicial consent. Yeah, it's not illegal. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that I would do anything with her. Okay? I'm just saying she's an animated character that's a legal age. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I just looked it up. It's not still minor. Okay? I will say the only girl that I've been semi-serious with was older than me. And I tend to hang out around people older than me. Because they tend to be more interesting. Because they're not just in school. Not saying that people that are just in school are not interesting, but like, they have more life experience. I don't know. So I don't... yeah. Pedophile comfort... Oh my God. But you still looked at ass? Caught in 4K? Listen, I try to be truthful with you guys. Okay? I'm being truthful. You want me to lie? You want me to be one of those streamers that lies? Okay? Listen. I wouldn't do anything in real life, okay? Jesus. What is this BS, bro? What is this? I was joking, okay? I was joking, okay? Where's the delete button? Alright, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What'd I do? What is this slander? Thanks for the content for my channel. Bro, I'm a jokester, okay? It's in my nature, okay? And this slander hurts my heart. I might consider suing Diego. I might actually consider... Thank you for using the emote. I haven't seen someone use it in a while. That's because we have 10 subscribers at the moment. Probably because I'm streaming less often now. But it's okay. I kind of got rid of sub goals also. I like how much cleaner it is without sub goals. And I figure if I provide amazing content, sub goals are useless. We will have a sub goal for me going blonde. Blonde? Bald, possibly, though. I think sub goals are good for like 24-hour streams though. That's $50 though. Twitch takes half of it, so it's 25. But yes, I honestly do appreciate every dollar. Arigato gozaimasu, Josh, and everyone who subscribes. You're not wrong. But yeah, to become full time, Twitch is not enough right now, which is why I'm trying to push out my YouTube more, so that so I could get people on YouTube and then stream more often to more people. I don't know if that made sense. Basically, let's try to use my time more wisely, I guess. Random viewer gets sued. Random mod gets sued. I literally used that emote at the beginning of the stream, like literally 0 out of 10. I'm gonna scroll up right now, okay? And if you're wrong, bro, if you're wrong, oh, it doesn't scroll up all the way because we have so much content. But if that's true, I apologize. I don't see it often. Okay, I'll say that. Why us? No, I do really appreciate every dollar that comes my way streaming. Chat history moment. But thinking realistically, like I'm paying rent to my parents right now because I feel guilty living home at my age. And if I were to move out, I'd have to pay rent, right? So I do have to grind. My hope, like, it would be cool if I get a lot through YouTube and not to rely on Twitch. Because I would rather not rely on Twitch. Because it's hard to, but also, like, I just would feel bad. Like, with YouTube, you're, like, you don't have to pay for me to make money. With Twitch, you kind of do. Which is, yeah. Me that hasn't donated. Pink grinding kills IRL. What? Grinding kills in real life? What does that mean? But yeah, I'm doing Uber Eats now. I'm hoping YouTube basically breaks out, and then I could do Twitch more. Because I do like doing Twitch. But I want to do more show-type content. Or, like, challenges. Challenges, definitely. Have you guys ever watched Doctor... He's a doctor. He's not a real doctor, like Doctor. What's his name? The guy with the glasses. I don't know why I forgot his name. Oh, I don't drive. I'm doing it on biking. Biking. Funny, right? Actually, don't tell anyone, guys. I hope no one in my family is in chat right now. But I got into a car crash like a week ago. Like, I crashed into a car and I went flying off of my bike. And yeah, that never happened to me in my life. I got away with like slight injuries, so I was fine, but it kind of shook me a bit because I thought I was a really good cycler or a decent enough cycler. Uber Eats pays little to nothing in Mexico. The thing is, like, what are the costs in Mexico, right? Because like everything is relative. So if you make $100 a month, but rent costs $10 a month, you're doing pretty good. If you're making $100 a month and rent costs $1,000 a month, that's hard, you know? So New York Uber Eats is very good. Probably the best in the world, possibly. But rent is one of the most expensive in the world too. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, it is what it is kind of thing. You know? The costs are worse than in USA. Whose fault? No one tell Emily, yeah. And take it from experience, it's not worth it when you can barely pay the gas for the car and so hot on the road. That makes sense. For biking, makes more sense to bike than to drive. Also, even in New York, to an extent, you could be faster on the bike even in certain circumstances because there's so many like cars in New York. It was kind of the driver's fault, it was both of our faults. It was his fault because he was coming out of a parking spot and he didn't see me. But it was my fault because he was coming out of a parking site and I didn't see him. Oh, I have to talk to this guy. I flew off my bike. The funny thing is, I fell. The guy got out of his car. He's like, "Are you okay?" Bystanders are like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." I looked at my bike to see if it's okay. I got back on it and I went to deliver my delivery. That's how freaking dedicated I am. Okay. But my inner thigh hurt a little and my butt cheek for a few days. It's pretty much 100% good now though. My bike, the front tire of my bike looked like it was wobbly, but I don't know if I was just imagining things or not. But that kind of shook me because I've been biking since I was a kid, and that's never happened to me in my life. Thankfully I know how to fall, and I fell on my hands. If I fell on my head, it could have been bad, you know. But but then I looked up the statistics, and the probability of getting hit like and dying in New York is very low, which kind of surprised me. Like 30 people a year die in New York from biking accidents, and like 600,000 bikers a week, or something like that. So it's like very, very, very tiny. But it was still a bit, out of nowhere. It's not. I like the song. Minimum wage in Mexico of a day is as much as minimum again, but how much? I'm not saying Mexico is, it's so much better to live in Mexico versus US in terms of finances, but what's the rent in Mexico? Because the biggest expenses tend to be rent, mortgage, food, rent and food. Those are the biggest expenses. So if rent is 10% of your salary, like that's better than 50% of your salary, right? In New York, depending on where you live, obviously you have some choice depending on where you live. But if you live in the city, rent could be literally like 50% of what you're making, which is kind of insane. I don't know how it is in Mexico, Don't read down to. I try not to, okay? I said stuff of that before. The costs are worse than in US. Yeah, I read that. And the car thing. And Uber Eats pays little. Yeah, I read all that. Food is more expensive here. But how much is rent? Like, would you know that? Houses too, except the houses that are shit here. So most. Sure, but in terms of finances, I'm not talking about quality necessarily. So like Mexico, average monthly rent. Family of 4. $670. Like this, just for you to get like a number in your head. If I were to live with 2 other friends in a decent sized apartment, it would cost us, in a decent neighborhood, not even like a really good neighborhood, it would cost us like 2,500 USD. So like, like 2,400 at the minimum to 3,000. So like 4 to 5 times more money. 4 to 5 times more. And this is for a family of 4, which is probably a larger area, Average salary in Mexico. Okay, so average salary is much lower too than US, right? 16.7K is like poverty here. Here, it's interesting. I was making 30K USD in Japan, and my rent was $400 a month, but I had a tiny place. If I was making 30K a year here, I don't think it would be very hard to live in New York. It depends what percentage, basically. I was trying to figure out, but basically if 17K, 600, like obviously this is not 670 divided by 17,000 times 100 times 100. Wait, this is yearly. I'm an idiot. Okay, 17,000, 670. Okay, 670 divided by 1,400. 670 divided by 1416. 0.6, we'll just say. That's pretty insane. So that means that average rent for a family of 4 is 50%. Average salary for average rent for a family of 4 cost 50% of your salary. That's pretty crazy. But obviously, with a family of 4, you might have 2 people you pretty much have to have 2 people working. It seems that would be my assumption, and that's obviously like very basic numbers. We don't know like, and I'm sure you know better, Diego. But yeah. $6 a day is too little in Mexico because, for example, a pizza costs 200. 200. Well, not $200, right? 200. What is it? Pesos. Oh, do I have to verse this guy right now? The frick? In former times, you would say something crazy. Schubert, isn't that like a famous guy? I want to fight him. I want to fight. He wants to restore his honor. A pizza is $10. That's pretty crazy. But how much is groceries? And you win six. Oh, average salary in New York is 32,000. Really? In New York City, or state? I feel like it's kind of low. Oh, in New York City. Well, it says yeah, New York City. Funny thing is, if you look up average rent in New York City, it doesn't tell you one number. 2,500. Average rent for a New York studio apartment is 3,200. New York City 1-bedroom rents hit $33,000 a month, bro. This was 2 years ago though. It might have gone down because of COVID, and then back up because of COVID recovery a bit. This is in Manhattan though. Manhattan is very like, if you look up average salary in Manhattan, I wouldn't be surprised to see like very high figures. Yeah, so this is very different, right? 51,000 for an individual. So you're making 50K, and you're paying 3K, 3 to 4K for a studio. Let's say 3K for a studio, times 12. You're paying 36K divided by, let's say 51 because it was closer. 70% of your salary goes to rent. That's living in Manhattan. Manhattan is insane. You need to be making 3 figures to like, or 6 figures to be living comfortably in Manhattan. It all depends what you want out of life, right? If you want to have a great job, if you don't mind living in an okay place, like if you live in New York, if you live in Brooklyn and you commute to Manhattan, and you're making 6 figures in a finance job, and you're living with your parents, or you're living with a group of people. A lot of people live together. Not many people live alone because it's so expensive. Then you could save a lot of money fast. Like you could save like $50,000-$60,000 a year if you're very frugal with your money. And then you could actually theoretically retire and move to Mexico and live the rest of your life there, or move to China or something. Like my friend told me he was living off of like a few dollars a day in China, in a small city in China. Like it all depends on what you want out of life, you know. Average salary in New York is 32,000. Groceries is like the same. Damn. 30,000 in Ohio, almost 32,000 in Iowa. I love how you put Iowa as well. That's pretty high. That's higher than I expected, actually. Average salary in Mexico is $420 a month. Working a month just for a PS5. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. That's why I don't know if you guys know who Devin Nash is, but he talks about Twitch a lot on YouTube, which is kind of funny. He was talking about price discrimination, which is kind of smart. And basically, price discrimination is smart in certain ways. What it means is you're basically, the price of a book in one location is different than the price of that same exact book in a different location. So Twitch subscriptions could be different depending on where you live. That was a pretty interesting idea that someone brought up. Like imagine if you live in Mexico, Twitch costs you $1 to subscribe to a person, or like 50 cents. Versus if you live in the US, maybe it costs $5 a month, which is what it costs now, if I'm not mistaken. And if you have Amazon Prime, it's free, which is awesome. but obviously not everyone has Amazon Prime. But yeah, average payment can't buy that. Rent and internet, 300, electricity and water, 0. Food, 300, transportation, 20. It seems like you need 2 people in the household to work, right? I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know enough, but I do know that in New York specifically, you can and in a lot of places in America, it's I don't know for a fact, but it seems I know in New York at least, you have to be frugal with your money, or just make a lot like, or have 2 members of the family making money in a lot of cases. Um, Also, you gotta remember like groceries is different everywhere in the states too, and like restaurants are insanely expensive here, like insanely expensive. But I mean, you could afford it if you're working in the city. I don't know. I have 3 people who work, and we're so poor. That sucks. How much access is there to like colleges there? Because as much as a lot of Americans shit on college and public education, college is one of the biggest indicators of like success. Like if you go to college, you're most likely and get a degree in something that's like not art or something like that, or like women gender studies or something. You could actually make a lot of money relative to everything. Until a bunch of entitled Americans buy up everything from Mexico and drive up the prices, then call it a hustle. Is that a thing? College is free? Do a lot of people go to college though? Because the funny thing is, even even counting for college, the costs of college in the states that a lot of people complain about, and for sure it's insanely expensive for certain colleges. It's worth it in the states because your salary will pay off the debts if you go for what you've majored in. A lot of people don't, which is like a different problem, right? You gotta go. Okay, see you, Diego. But yeah, like I'm assuming maybe a lot of people can't go to college because they're too busy working. I just don't know. Like, what's the rates? Rate of college degrees Mexico. I don't even know how to look that up. College graduation rate. 23% of Mexicans age 23 to 35 have a college degree. Like that, I kind of expected for it to be a low percent because of like Diego telling me like other stuff. But here it says 47%. Current USE graduation rate is 47 compared with an average of 84%. Wait, why does it say 47 here? Oh, I guess it depends on the age group. Yeah, yeah, that would be my assumption. Median salary for computer science, my major, I think is 100. Yeah, computer science, computer. If you want to major in something, just for money. I mean, finance is insane, especially in New York. Like first year starting salary, I could have been making 6 figures, living home, saving so much money. Um, but computer science is like one of the best because programming is needed in so many fields and it's still so elementary. Like most people don't know how to program, but you could do so much with it. Yeah, computer science is just insane. I mean, if you look at what they call it, the STEM, right? STEM, like if you major in anything in STEM, science, technology, engineering, medicine. I think it's medicine. Then you're probably gonna be fine. If you actually, where am I supposed to go? Oh, then you're probably gonna be fine if you actually like go into those fields. So often, a bunch of upper middle class people will find something made for poor people, then buy it all, and say it's a pro tip for saving money. Oh, that sounds sad. Pay scales 2019 college salary report. Listed that my computer science graduates earn an average early career salary of 68.6 and a mid career salary. But you gotta remember, Google says this. You gotta remember, Josh. It all depends on where you live. You take a huge pay cut if you live in New York, for example, and you move to like South Carolina. You're gonna take a huge pay cut for doing the same exact job. The thing is, your rent is gonna be cheaper. Ooh, Amber. So like, it's all like it's all a numbers game at the end of the day, but it's like it depends where you're gonna live. But anywhere you live, you're probably gonna be fine. Like if you're making 68.6K and you don't live in a big city like New York or like in LA or so, or like in Texas, like well, depending where, right? Even in Texas and New York and stuff, then you could be fine. That's average. Yeah, I mean that's a good salary. If you look at the I think poverty is like 40K uh in the US. Oh no, it's much wait. Oh, in New York maybe? Why did I think it was so high? Poverty salary USA? I don't know how to look this up. I know I'm seeing these different numbers for one person 12.8Ks. I would probably be poor right now actually because I am an independent. But I'm not the only, I'm if I moved, I guess. But I am living with family, but I am paying rent and I don't take money from family. But obviously that's very different. I'm comfortable enough to have a roof over my house right now. What is Why did I think it was so high? That's such a dumb thing for me to say. Why did I think of oh, maybe I thought median salary USA. It's also yeah, I was thinking median. Median is like 36K. Okay. And that's into roughly half of all of those with graduate degrees were among the nation's top. Oh, okay, never mind. Like, we're globally rich, I think, Americans. Yet we complain so much. Median is more important than average, I think, in my opinion. Oh, average is lower because average takes outliers, right? I'm sure you guys know this, but like, if someone makes $0, that's taken into the calculation. If someone makes $1 billion, that's taken into the but most people aren't in those extremes, so you want to see what most people are at, right? Or at least I would want to see. Unless there are so much more people who are poor that it gets skewed towards that direction, but whatever. So it's around 35K average. US poverty is way lower than it should be. Maybe. I don't know. Like when I read stats like this, this kind of blew my mind. Wow, this is literally exactly how I remember it. The average American home has 300,000 items in it, and the average poor person owns, I think, 2 televisions. And I didn't even know this. The average size of the American home has nearly tripled in size over the past 50 years. Like, there are many things that a lot of countries are doing better in, but it's hard to see because it's hard to quantify. Like, it's hard to quantify the fact that video games are cheaper now, that so many video games are free now, right? That access to the internet is cheaper, that you can have fast access to the internet. Like you gotta remember, like 10, 15, even 20 years ago, the fact, like us talking right now would be impossible. 20 years ago, probably, right? Like in this fashion. Like Twitch didn't, I don't think Twitch existed. Justin TV wasn't 20 years old either. Justin TV start. So it started 14 years ago. Like there's so much more, like if you want to go on your phone and look something up, it's like boom and you see something. I think people discount a lot of that, and like the price of a phone, the price of a console is cheaper relative to what it used to be and what it used to have. Right? Like technology gets stronger, but it doesn't escalate in price with the technology. Right? Like the PS5 is much stronger than the PS3, but it doesn't cost so much more. I think it tends to be toxic to compare the one's nation to that of other nations in an aim to devalue the struggles of the richer or better off places. Yes, of course, other places have it worse. But that doesn't mean that things like wealth inequality and unfair wages shouldn't... No, yeah, I agree. The reason why I say this is not to say that people that there are no problems. And this is what I get into a lot. The reason why I say this is to really point it out to people who think that things are getting worse generally. Like, the state of America is getting worse. Like, I feel like it's kind of selfish to say that things are worse now than it was before in the States when you look at other places and when you look at history. I think you could, like, simultaneously say things are getting better in a lot of ways, and there are still things that are screwed up that we have to tackle. I think both things can be true at once, and I think both things are true at once. You know? I don't think they're exclusive. Like, it kind of annoys me when people... I don't know. I think also a lot of Americans don't travel, and that's, like, a nice thing that Europeans have, that they're all so close to each other that they could see how life is in other countries. And when you see how other people's lives are, it's much easier to appreciate what you have, I think. Like, my dad grew up in Soviet Union, Russia, where like, if you made money, this is according to my dad, I don't know, but he says, like, oh, like, they would take away property you have. Like, you couldn't be as capitalistic as you are in the States. Like, you can't, like, run your own business. The government would, like, take it or whatever. But definitely, like, I would have to do more research. But like, my point is, like, his perspective on a lot of things in America is very different than people who grew up here. It's like Naruto, alright? If you haven't gotten to this part, if you don't want me to spoil Naruto. But, like, basically in Naruto, people struggled. People went through war. And so when peace came, they appreciated it a lot. But the next generation, which is Boruto, they have so much and they don't appreciate what they have because they didn't have to fight for what they have. They were born into it. So they don't realize how lucky they are. I think the best thing is is balance, right? If you could recognize that things are much better, and at the same time recognize that there are problems that need to be fixed, then, like, you kind of have the right perspective, I think. There will always be wealth inequality in a capitalistic nation. The goal is equal opportunity, not equal outcome. Equal outcome is impossible without taking freedom away. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, I think. I think it's interesting also, when I took a class in college, I took a history course that basically looked at, like, history since the beginning of time. And it was interesting to see that in the beginning, people were basically walking around, right? They were nomadic. And then at a certain point, people settled down. And when people settled down, they were all doing the same thing. They all had the same type of houses. There was no real leadership, because everyone was kind of, like, working on the same thing, so, like, on agriculture, so that they could eat. And once everyone had an abundance of food, that's when you saw specialization occur. People started becoming blacksmiths, started working on horses or whatever, and things changed because they had the freedom, they had the time to not spend time on agriculture and spend time on other stuff. And naturally, some people turned out better than other people because of that. So I don't know if true equality is possible, in terms of everyone having the same wealth and because I think just naturally, like, we value things differently, and that's just how it is. Like even if you look at Twitch, right? The reason why I'm a small streamer and why there's, like, I think Twitch is so interesting because it actually, like, represents, like, wealth inequality in a way. It's so interesting to me. Like a lot of things in life. Like, if you go to Twitch right now, right? I'm gonna go to Twitch. Let's go to Valorant, okay? Because Shroud is playing it right now. Okay. Viewers high to low. Shroud has 28,000 people watching him. There's 90,000 people viewing it right now. He has about a third of the audience. One person has a third of the audience, and look how many people are streaming the game. It naturally was pushed towards this direction. Why? Because for whatever reason, Shroud got popular, and whatever game he plays, he'll have a lot of people watching. That being said, I don't think it means you don't do anything for all these other people, right? Like, look how many people are streaming to 0 or to 1 viewer. But it's like a two-way street, kind of. Like, the people streaming have to understand this is how it is, and have to try to figure out ways to, like, improve. Like me, also, I'm a small streamer. I have to figure out ways to get bigger, right? And to improve and whatever. But, like, let's say that they somehow were able to push it out so everyone has the same amount of viewers. Naturally, people would just stop watching certain viewers and go to other viewers and stuff. That's why you don't ignore the problem, right? But you try to fight it in a way that's not forceful, I think. Because you can't really force people to view other people. You can't really force certain businesses to do better or to equalize, because people are going to prefer one thing over another. Why do people always go to Amazon and not other companies to order stuff? Because Amazon is quick, reliable, blah, 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 right? All of that is already there. Cheap, Amazon Prime, like, relative to other things. So, like, if you have a way to prop up small businesses or small streamers that are good streamers or whatever, that have potential, then I think, like, that's the best way. Like, I think you could tackle it, like, at the same time. I don't know why I'm talking about all this. I don't know if this is annoying, but... It doesn't need to be exactly equal, of course, but a person starving themselves to afford shelter and someone who has a net worth that is more than $1 per second every second since the bro one felt times 200 shouldn't exist under the same system. What's the solution to that, though? I don't know. Because honestly, there's a lot of homeless people in New York, as an example. And actually, let's look this up right now, because I'm kind of curious. Homeless people as a percentage of... No. Mental illness amongst homeless populations, USA. My assumption is it's pretty high. According to the 2015 assessment, 500,000 people were homeless on a given night. At a minimum, 140,000 or 25% were seriously mentally ill, and 45% had any mental illness. Like, I think it's... Like, the solution is not just to transfer money from one person to another, for several reasons in my head. One thing is, a lot of homeless people that get money end up spending a lot of the money and getting rid of it. A lot of lottery winners also, they get a lot of money and they're out of money. Education is one of the biggest things, I think, that would help. So when you educate people on finances, that could help a lot with people saving and stuff like that. And second, mental facilities, let's say, for a lot of homeless people, like, would help. But straight out giving money, like pushing money, I think is what a lot of Americans like as a solution. And I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but I think a lot of Americans like pushing solution to problems, pushing money to solve problems. But that just doesn't work. Like, if you look at the U.S. like public education system, it's not that good in the world, and we spend more than I think the next like 10 countries combined per capita. Let me see, USA per capita spending. Public education. And to me, that has more to do with like the state of minds with Americans as opposed to anything else. I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent by saying this, but whatever. We spent $13,000 per pupil. So this is by state. Well, I can't find exactly what I'm looking for, but I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. Oh, shit. I have to walk my dog. There will always be one thing to call... Did Pink get too scared? I told you I'm going to stop playing it. I said it over and over, Nathan. And I said I'll play Genshin for you because I feel bad. And then you left. But 2.5 hours did pass and I have to walk my dog, so I will end stream soon.
there are more vacant homes than homeless people in the U.S., and assisting homeless people gains more in tax revenue than it costs to have the city deal with them. Assistance programs are objectively less costly. Okay, so that sounds like a good thing to push for then. I don't know enough about that. The thing that more vacant homes than homeless people, putting homeless people in vacant homes, and then doing what charging them taxes, or they don't get taxes, or not charging them until they get a job. It's a very complex conversation. I don't think it's so simple. Thanks for contributing, Nathan. But yeah, I didn't like no more scary games, Nathan. For God Monkey, I'm sorry. It's like my one rule from now on. I think it's very hard. I think a lot of people online. So it used to be that a lot of people used to listen to newspapers and news to get their news, or pundits on like news stations. And now a lot of, especially younger people, listen to like YouTubers or like streamers or whatever on advice on like politics and stuff. And what I find, like, and I also do, like, I listen also sometimes to like get information. But what I find interesting is that a lot of things that people say, it's not as black and white as what they say. Like, when you do more research yourself on it, it becomes more murky. Like, it's very easy to say something that sounds right, but it's much harder to actually implement that because of all the other stuff. Like taxes, let's say. Like, do you charge assisting homeless people against more in tax revenue? But the thing is, do homeless people, would they be able to afford taxes? Do we charge them taxes? At what point do you charge taxes to them? That's just one thing to talk about, right? You have a lot of companies that, or a lot of like realtors that are selling houses, but then let's say you have an apartment that you want to give a homeless person. How does the landlord make money out of that? Let's say you don't want the landlord to make money out of that. If you push that incentive, like, it's all about incentives. How do you incentivize a way for homeless people to be better off, and for people on the other side to be able to do that? If you don't incentivize it, you're basically making it less free in the decisions of the landlords, and then it could screw up the housing markets and stuff like that. So I think it's a very hard discussion. I don't know how clear the answer is, and I didn't do enough research, but yeah. Maybe you're right, Doctor. I don't know. I will end it there, though, unfortunately. I pretty much just ran around here, and I've only done a bit in Genshin. Sorry, Nathan. But I do have to walk my doggo and do stuff. But this was cool. I like talking about random stuff. It's interesting. My whole point is that a lot of things are nuanced. And we all fall to like general like conclusions without doing the research, including me. There was a trial and long-term study on this in a city. I wrote an essay about it at some point. I don't remember what it did, but it ends up being an upfront investment that had longer-term profits. The problem is, and this is just my assumption, like I'm playing devil's advocate now because I have no idea, right? You could be 100% right. I don't know. Even if I take your word for it, there are things that you can't hypothesize in the future. Like one thing a lot of people talk about is like how policing and black communities was pushed by black leaders in the past because they thought, oh, if police are in like black communities, then it'll like fix up the streets and stuff. But it had the opposite effect because police were rounding up more people because there were more police on the streets to see people do even like marijuana like charges on marijuana charges and stuff like that. So like that had an adverse effect that the people that even implemented the policy with good faith, like good intent, didn't expect. My whole point is like things are very tricky. That's my whole point. So I would want a lot of questions answered personally before like thinking that that's a good idea. Like, will homeless people be incentivized to work? If a homeless person has a mental illness and can't work, do you put them in a mental facility? Is that worse for them? Is it better for them? How much does it cost for mental facilities? Is it better that they're pushed with there's a homeless person in my community, and I've heard her talk about how like her family doesn't support her. Like they're very hard questions to answer, I think. People look for short-term profits. It's in human nature. Why do you think people are outraged to wear masks? They don't care about the future. They care about the present. It's just natural. I think with the masks, it was a different thing. I think Americans are very stubborn. I think Americans are very stubborn in one direction. Like, to compare with Japan, this is kind of generalizing, but a lot of Japanese people kind of just follow the rules. A lot of Americans kind of like to go against the system or whatever. And I think a balance is most important, like most things in life. Like, you go against the system to a degree if it makes sense to. And you kind of follow the rules if it makes sense to. Like, to me, when I was in Japan, wearing a mask wasn't a big deal to me. Because worst case scenario, it does nothing. Best case scenario, I'm doing something that helps. And me personally, I didn't care much about it. But like to wear a mask. But like, yeah, that's one thing that I really liked about Japan. That people weren't so fueled by just, I don't know. I feel like America, it's, people argue about a lot of stuff now in ways that just seem so sad to me. Because, like, there's a lot of things that I feel like we don't need to argue about, or we could try to find solutions for that we just argue about. Or people get really mad and don't want to even talk about a subject because they have such strong opinions on it. And it's just like, so how do you have good, genuine conversations if the other person doesn't want to listen and just has one thought process? And that's just most people. And if we want to compare left and right, or different like views, like vaccine, not vaccine, like, it's on all sides. Like, everyone just wants to yell at each other and tell them that they're right. I don't know. And that's the boring answer, but I think it's the more truthful answer. Of course, but the main issue with most progressive reform is half-assing it and only half implementing the programs. It's more ins than I may imply, but I would argue that if it was actually focused on priorities, it could be significantly improved. Maybe. But the thing is, that's the system we live in now. Like, that's the democracy we live in now. We don't have one person, like, making all the rules. Like, it's gonna be hard to push through certain things. The problem I have with a lot of liberal, like, ideas is that they seem very good in theory, but very hard to actually implement, and very kind of like, it's kind of like wishful thinking. That's not to say every like liberal policy is like that, but that's what I see a lot of times. Like, people will want to like push forward something that might be a positive, but would only be a positive if X, Y, and Z would happen. And it's impossible to get X, Y, and Z through in the democratic system that we have, unless you're it's not a democratic system. Because there's always, like, I think a lot of people don't understand that there's always going to be people who just don't agree with you. And with legislators and politics and just people, like, you have to give in. You have to give, like, you have to not give in. You have to, like, compromise. That's the word. You have to compromise with things. Like, if every Republican wanted what they wanted, or if every Democrat wanted what they wanted, but like, that's just not reality. Like, you can't get those things through. I don't know. It's also interesting to see how a lot of things were bipartisan, and they get less and less bipartisan throughout the years. Like, a lot of things were more bipartisan in the past. And that, to me, is the scariest part, more than any one individual policy. Just like America, like, you know how, like, they say, like, a lot of big nations crumble from within, not from outsiders necessarily. Like, I could see America becoming like a bad place to live in like 50 or 100 years. And the reason wouldn't be because economically it wouldn't come from like North Korea attacking us or something, or Russia or whatever. I could see it coming from Americans attacking Americans. Whether that be physically or not, like, is another discussion. I don't know. Obviously, no one knows. But like, just the state of like public discourse is just insanely like divided, and that's scary to me. I don't know. We'll see what happens, right? And then on another note, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see y'all later. And I've made something new. I want to see what you guys think. So have a great night or day wherever you are, and have a great weekend, because the weekend is awesome. Thanks for talking. It was very interesting conversations. Until there's another Civil War, but I'll see you. Possibly. Yep, see you, Josh. See you, Doctor.
Thank you for watching. Consider following. Check out